I was the ungrateful daughter who cared for mom. So I used her secret journal to expose how my sister stole her house while she had dementia. The lawyer's office smelled like antiseptic and regret. I sat stiffly in a pleather chair, still wearing the sweater I'd slept in. Because I hadn't slept. Not since the funeral. Not since the call from the county recorder's office. The deed to 421 Oakwood Lane was transferred to Claire Chen on March 12, 2025. Mom died on April 3rd. Your sister legally owns the house, the attorney said gently, sliding a document across the desk. Your mother signed the quitclaim deed herself. Witnesses present. Notarized. I stared at the page. My hands shook. For 3 years, I'd slept on mom's couch, bathed her when she forgot how, cooked her meals, managed her medications, held her when she cried about forgetting my name. I'd turned down job offers, drained my savings, canceled vacations, all while Claire showed up every Sunday with flowers and a smile, stayed 2 hours, and left before dinner. She called me ungrateful, I whispered. At the last family meeting, she said I resented caring for her. The lawyer sighed. Dementia can distort perception, but the law sees a valid signature. I walked out numb. Back at the house, her house, now Claire's, I packed my things slowly. Claire stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes sharp. I'm sorry it came to this, Maya, she said, voice syrupy with false sympathy. But mom knew I'd protect her legacy. You were, overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. That was her word for devotion. I nodded, zipped my suitcase, and left without another word. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Because I remembered the shoebox. Mom kept it under her bed. A red velvet box she'd had since college. She'd whispered once during a lucid moment, if anything happens, check the box. The truth is there. I drove back at 2 a.m. using the spare key I'd hidden in the garden. The house was empty. Claire hadn't moved in yet. I found the box exactly where I'd left it. Inside, not photos or letters, a journal, and a sealed envelope labeled for Maya, if Claire takes the house. My breath caught. I opened the journal first. Page after page of shaky but clear handwriting. Dated from January 2024 to February 2025. Early stage dementia, but moments of startling clarity. Jan 12, Claire brought papers today, said it was just a formality to help with bills. I didn't understand all of it, but she smiled so sweetly I signed. Feb 3, asked Maya why my name isn't on the house anymore. She looked confused. I must be imagining things. Mar 1, Claire told the nurse I'm paranoid, but I remember signing something. What did I give away? Martin wrote this in secret. If I forget, tell Maya. Claire is stealing my home. Stop her. Tears blurred the ink. Then I opened the envelope. Inside, a notarized letter, dated February 28, 2025, 2 weeks before mom died. To whom it may concern, I, Eleanor Lin Chen, am of sound mind today. I did not understand the documents my daughter Claire presented on March 12, 2024. I believed I was signing a power of attorney, not a deed. I wish for my home to go to my daughter Maya, who cared for me without condition. Eleanor Chen. It was witnessed by her neurologist. Notarized. Valid. I held the papers to my chest and finally let myself cry. Not from grief, but from fury. Claire hadn't just taken the house. She'd weaponized mom's illness to steal her final gift. And I had the proof. The next morning, I filed an emergency motion to void the deed, but Claire struck back fast. She told the court I'd manipulated mom during her weakest moments, and even accused me of forging the journal. At the hearing, she played a video of mom saying, Maya resents me. But what she didn't know? I had the full recording. And the truth was in the silence after. The courthouse was packed. Not with reporters, but with social workers, neighbors, and mom's old bridge club friends. They'd all seen Claire's performance, the weekly visits, the floral arrangements, the tearful updates at church. To them, she was the devoted daughter. I was the ungrateful one who resented caregiving. Claire sat at the plaintiff's table in a tailored navy suit, hair perfectly coiffed, eyes glistening with practiced sorrow. She'd filed a counter motion accusing me of undue influence and emotional manipulation during mom's most vulnerable state. Her lawyer called it a classic case of caregiver exploitation. I sat alone, clutching my evidence folder like a shield. Judge Rivera, a no-nonsense woman with silver-streaked hair, opened the hearing. Ms. Chen, you claim your mother was not of sound mind when she signed the quitclaim deed. What proof do you offer? Claire's lawyer stood first. Your Honor, we have video testimony from Mrs. Chen herself recorded just 6 weeks before her passing. He played a clip on the courtroom screen. Mom sat in her favorite armchair, wrapped in a shawl, eyes distant but calm. Claire's voice off camera. Do you feel supported by Maya? Mom hesitated. Then softly, she resents me. Gasps rippled through the room. Claire dabbed her eyes with a tissue. My stomach dropped. I knew that clip. It was from a longer recording I'd made during a lucid moment, part of mom's memory therapy. But this snippet? It was edited, manipulated. The truth came after. Before I could object, Claire's lawyer added, we also have statements from 2 home health aides who say Ms. Maya Chen often argued with her mother, called her confused, and isolated her from family. It was all lies, twisted truths. The aides had been paid by Claire, something I'd discovered in their texts, which I'd saved. But then it was my turn. I stood slowly. Your Honor, I asked to play the full recording, the unedited version. Claire stiffened. Objection, it's hearsay and potentially fabricated. Overruled, Judge Rivera said. Play it. I connected my laptop. The full video filled the screen. Same setup. Same question from Claire. Do you feel supported by Maya? Mom paused, looked down, then whispered, she resents me. A beat of silence. Then, in a stronger voice, clear, lucid, she added, but only because I made her stay. She gave up everything for me. And I let Claire take it all away. She turned to the camera, my camera, and said, voice trembling but firm, Maya, if you're watching this, don't let her steal our home. It's yours. You earned it. The room went silent. Even Claire looked stunned. I didn't stop there. I also submit Mom's secret journal, I said, handing copies to the court, and a notarized letter dated February 28, 2025, witnessed by her neurologist, Dr. Eris Thorne, stating she did not understand the deed she signed in March 2024. Claire's lawyer scoffed. Conveniently discovered after the fact. Easily forged. So I called Dr. Thorne to the stand. He was calm, professional, devastating. Mrs. Chen came to me in distress in early March 2024. She said her daughter presented documents she didn't understand. I documented her confusion. And yes, I witnessed her sign the letter Maya submitted. She was fully lucid that day. Scared, but clear. Then I played one more piece of evidence. Audio from Claire's phone, recovered from a cloud backup. She'd forgotten to log out of her old account on Mom's iPad. Claire, just tell her it's a bill payment form. She won't know the difference. Notary, off record. Are you sure this is ethical? Claire, she's my mother. I'm protecting her. Now sign it. The courtroom erupted. Claire shot to her feet. That's taken out of context. But Judge Rivera silenced her with a look. Sit down, Ms. Chen, she turned to me. Do you have anything else? One more thing, I said. I pulled out a photo, a receipt from a luxury spa in Michigan, dated March 15th, 2024. While I was bathing Mom and managing her meds, Claire was on a weekend getaway. She posted about it on Instagram, but deleted it when I commented, "Hope Mom's okay alone." I looked at Claire, voice steady. You weren't the caregiver, you were the visitor, and you stole her home while pretending to protect her. Tears streamed down her face, not of remorse, but rage. You don't understand. She always loved you more. I had to fight for scraps. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Judge Rivera leaned forward. This court finds sufficient evidence of elder financial exploitation, undue influence, and potential fraud. The quitclaim deed is hereby voided pending full forensic review. The property reverts to the estate immediately. Claire's face went pale. You can't do that. I just did, the judge said coolly. And Miss Chen, pack your things. You're moving back in tonight. As I walked out of the courthouse, sunlight breaking through gray clouds, I didn't feel triumph. I felt relief because justice wasn't about taking her down. It was about honoring Mom's final wish and finally coming home. That night, as I unlocked the front door of 421 Oakwood Lane, I found a note taped to the frame. You think you won? The house is yours, but the memories are mine. But the real shock came when I checked the attic and found Mom's jewelry box empty. Claire hadn't just stolen the deed. She'd been looting the house for months. The note on the door read, "You think you won? The house is yours, but the memories are mine." I crumpled it in my fist and stepped inside 421 Oakwood Lane for the first time in 3 weeks. The air smelled like dust and lavender. Mom's favorite. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. Her reading glasses on the coffee table, her slippers by the couch, the half-finished crossword on the kitchen counter. But something felt off. I walked room to room, heart pounding. Nothing obvious was missing. No overturned furniture, no broken locks. But the silence was too heavy, like the house was holding its breath. Then I remembered the attic. Mom kept her most precious things there. Dad's old watch, her wedding band, the jade pendant from her grandmother, photo albums spanning 60 years. She'd shown me the lockbox herself during a rare lucid morning last winter. If anything happens, she'd whispered, the truth is in the green box. I climbed the creaky stairs slowly, flashlight in hand. The attic was dim, shadows pooling in the corners. The trunk where she kept the lockbox sat open, empty. Not just empty, ransacked. Photo albums torn apart. Jewelry boxes overturned. Even Dad's military medals gone. I sank to my knees, hands trembling. This wasn't just theft. This was erasure. Claire hadn't just stolen the deed. She'd been looting our family's memory, one heirloom at a time, while I was drowning in caregiving. I checked the security system. Mom had installed cameras after a break-in scare in 2023. Footage stored in the cloud for 90 days. I logged into the old family account, password Mom Loves Dumplings, and started watching. The footage was damning. February 18th, 2025. Claire arriving with a large tote bag while I was at the pharmacy, opening the attic trunk, stuffing jewelry into her bag. March 2nd, 2025. Returning with a friend, laughing as they packed photo albums into a suitcase. March 20th, 2025. Just days before Mom died, Claire carefully removing the jade pendant from its velvet case and slipping it into her coat pocket. Each visit timed perfectly. When I was at doctor's appointments, grocery runs, or asleep from exhaustion, she hadn't just taken the house. She'd been stealing our past while pretending to honor it. I backed up every clip, then called the police. Filed a report for burglary and elder financial exploitation. But deep down, I knew the real battle wasn't legal. It was moral. Because how do you prove the value of a mother's wedding ring? Of a father's war medals? Of photos that can never be replaced? The next morning, I met with Detective Ruiz, who'd handled elder fraud cases for 20 years. She reviewed the footage, face grim. This is textbook, she said. She exploited your caregiving role to isolate your mom, then used her access to steal both property and legacy. But can we get it back? I asked. We can try. Check pawn shops, estate sales, online resale sites. I spent the next week doing exactly that. On eBay, I found Dad's watch listed under a vague title, Vintage Men's Timepiece, Great Condition. Seller location, Claire's zip code. On Facebook Marketplace, Mom's jade pendant appeared as Heirloom Greenstone Necklace, $450 OBO. I didn't buy them. I reported them. Within 48 hours, both listings were removed. The pawn shop that took the medals cooperated once police showed up, but the photo albums, gone. likely shredded. That hurt more than the jewelry. That night, I sat on Mom's bed holding the empty green box. I wanted to scream, to burn the house down, to make Claire feel the hollow ache of losing everything that mattered. But then I remembered Mom's journal entry. Maya, if you're reading this, don't let anger steal your life. Build something new from what's left. So I did. I created a digital archive, scanned every surviving photo I could find, school pictures, holiday cards, even blurry phone snaps. Reached out to relatives for duplicates. Started rebuilding our visual history, one pixel at a time. And I filed an amended motion in probate court, not just to reclaim the house, but to seek restitution for stolen heirlooms and emotional damages. Claire responded with a letter from her lawyer. My client denies all allegations. Any items removed were gifts from Mrs. Chen during her lifetime. Gifts, right. I replied with a single exhibit. The security footage time-stamped March 20th, 2025, the day Mom was nonverbal, bedridden, unable to speak, let alone give gifts. The judge scheduled an emergency hearing. As I prepared my testimony, I realized something. This wasn't just about the house. It was about proving that caregiving has value, that presence matters more than performance, that the daughter who stays, who bathes, feeds, and holds through the darkest nights, deserves more than crumbs of gratitude. She deserves justice. And I was done being quiet about it. At the hearing, Claire brought in a surprise witness, Mom's former social worker, who claimed I'd isolated her from family. But when I played the full home footage, the nights I sang lullabies, the mornings I brushed her hair, the way I held her hand as she forgot my name, the courtroom fell silent, and the judge said the words I'd waited 3 years to hear. This home belongs to the daughter who never left. The courtroom felt heavier this time, not just with legal weight, but with memory. I sat at the plaintiff's table, hands folded over a folder labeled Evidence Caregiving Logs. Inside, 3 years of handwritten notes, medication schedules, doctor visit summaries, and hundreds of time-stamped photos. Me helping Mom bathe, feeding her soup, holding her hand during panic attacks when she forgot where she was. Claire sat across the aisle, flanked by her lawyer and a woman in a beige cardigan, Ms. Helen Pryor, Mom's former social worker. Claire had called her as a character witness. Judge Rivera entered, nodded to both sides, and opened the hearing. We're here to determine final ownership of 421 Oakwood Lane and assess claims of elder financial exploitation. Ms. Chen, your opening? Claire's lawyer stood first. Your Honor, while my client acknowledges the deed transfer occurred during Mrs. Chen's cognitive decline, she maintains it was done with love and intent. More importantly, we submit that Ms. Maya Chen isolated her mother from family and community support, a fact corroborated by Ms. Pryor. Helen Pryor took the stand, calm and professional. In my visits, she began, I observed Ms. Maya Chen discouraging outside contact. She'd say things like, Mom's tired, or she's not up for visitors. Over time, Mrs. Chen became increasingly withdrawn. I believed Ms. Claire Chen was the stabilizing force. My stomach tightened. It was all technically true and utterly false. Mom was tired. She wasn't up for visitors because dementia is exhausting, and I'd shielded her from performative concern, not real love. But before I could respond, Claire's lawyer played his trump card. A clip from a home visit in November 2024. On screen, I'm heard saying, Not today, Aunt Linda. She's having a hard day. The camera pans to Mom curled on the couch, eyes distant. See? Claire's lawyer said. Isolation, control. Judge Rivera turned to me. Response? I stood slowly. Permission to play the full footage from that day? Granted. I connected my laptop. The courtroom screen filled with the unedited video. 2 hours long. It began with the same clip, but then it continued. Me gently washing Mom's hair in the kitchen sink because she feared showers, humming her favorite old song while making congee, holding her as she sobbed, whispering, I don't know who you are, but you feel safe. Later that night, reading her childhood stories until she fell asleep. Then came the moment no one expected. At 8:17 p.m., Mom looked directly into the camera, lucid, clear-eyed, and said, Maya never left. Not once. Claire came on Sundays like it was a job, but Maya, she stayed through the storms. If anyone deserves this house, it's her. Gasps filled the room. Even Helen Pryor looked stunned. I turned to the judge. I recorded these not for proof, but for memory. For the days I'd forget she still knew me. I handed the court a printed log. 327 nights I slept on the couch. 142 doctor appointments I attended. 0 vacations taken. And this, I added, pulling out a photo, is Claire on March 10th, 2025, the day Mom couldn't speak, posting on Instagram from a spa in Michigan. Self-care Sunday. Claire's face flushed crimson. That was before she died? I finished softly. Yes. While I was suctioning her throat so she could breathe. Silence. Then Judge Rivera spoke. Voice low but firm. Ms. Pryor, did you ever observe Ms. Maya Chen prevent medical care or emergency contact? No, Your Honor, Helen admitted. She was always prompt with medications and appointments. Then your claim of isolation appears to be based on social preference, not neglect. She turned to Claire. You presented yourself as the devoted daughter while outsourcing care to your sister. You signed documents your mother didn't understand. You looted heirlooms while she lay dying. And now you weaponize grief to steal what was never yours. Claire opened her mouth to protest, but the judge raised a hand. The court finds overwhelming evidence of elder financial abuse, emotional manipulation, and bad faith. The quitclaim deed is permanently voided. Full ownership of 421 Oakwood Lane is restored to the estate, and by prior testamentary intent, to Maya Chen. She paused. Furthermore, Ms. Claire Chen will reimburse $28,000 for stolen heirlooms and pay $15,000 in emotional restitution. Failure to comply will result in criminal charges. Claire stared at the floor, tears streaming, not of remorse, but defeat. As I walked out of the courthouse, sunlight warm on my face, neighbors and friends approached, some with hugs, others with quiet apologies. "We believed her," one whispered. "We're so sorry." I nodded. "Now you know the truth." That evening, I returned to 421 Oakwood Lane, not as a guest, not as a caretaker, but as its owner. I lit Mom's favorite lavender candle, sat on the porch swing she loved, and finally let myself breathe. For 3 years, I'd been called ungrateful, resentful, controlling, but today the truth had a name, and it was mine. 2 weeks later, as I sorted through recovered heirlooms, I found a hidden compartment in Dad's old watch, containing a key and a note in Mom's handwriting. "For the daughter who stayed. The real legacy is in the garden." But when I dug beneath the rose bushes, I didn't find cash or jewels. I found something far more valuable. The key was small, brass, tarnished, shaped like a forget-me-not. It fit no door in the house. But Mom's note was clear. "The real legacy is in the garden." I waited until dawn, when the light was soft and the roses still held dew. I knelt beneath the trellis where she'd planted her favorite David Austin blooms, the ones Dad gave her on their 25th anniversary. My hands trembled as I dug near the base of the largest bush, trowel slicing through damp soil. 6 inches down, my shovel hit metal. Not a lockbox. Not a safe. A weathered tin, like the kind she used to store cookies when I was a child. Inside, a sealed envelope, a folded blueprint, and a small velvet pouch. I opened the envelope first. "My dearest Maya, if you're reading this, you stayed, you fought, and you came home. Claire wanted the house. But you gave me your time, your sleep, your heart. That's worth more than bricks and mortar. The real legacy isn't money, it's what we build together." Mom! Tears blurred the ink. I unfolded the blueprint next. It was a hand-drawn plan for a small structure behind the garage. Maya's studio for drawing, healing, and new beginnings. She'd sketched it herself. Windows facing east for morning light, a loft for guest beds, shelves for art supplies. In the corner, a note. "Permit filed 2023. Waiting for you to say yes." She'd planned this before the dementia worsened, before Claire's manipulation, before any of it. And the velvet pouch? Inside, not jewelry, a single seed packet, forget-me-not perennial. Blooms every spring, returns no matter how deep the winter. I sat back on my heels, soil under my nails, tears streaming down my face. She hadn't left me a fortune. She'd left me a future. That afternoon, I called the city planning office. The permit was still active, filed under her name, but transferable. I submitted the paperwork that same day. But the real surprise came when I visited the local nursery to buy lumber. The owner, Mr. Ruiz, recognized me from the news. "Your mom came in last year," he said gently. "Paid in full for the materials, said my daughter will need a place to heal. Left them in storage unit 12. I went straight there. Inside, cedar planks, glass panes, paint cans labeled Morning Light White, even a drafting table wrapped in plastic. On top, a note in her shaky script. "Start whenever you're ready. I'll be watching." I didn't start that day, or the next, but I began clearing the space behind the garage, pulling weeds, leveling the ground, laying the foundation stone with my own hands. Neighbors stopped by with tools, coffee, quiet offers of help. Even Helen Pryor showed up one Saturday, holding a tray of muffins. "I misjudged you," she said simply. "Let me make it right." I accepted. Not because I needed her help, but because forgiveness, like gardening, requires tending. 2 weeks later, Claire appeared at the gate. She looked different. No designer clothes, no practiced smile. Just jeans, a worn sweater, and tired eyes. "I paid the restitution," she said quietly. "The watch, the pendant, they're in your mailbox." I nodded. Didn't invite her in. She hesitated. "I saw the studio plans. She always knew you'd stay." "Yes," I said. "She also knew you'd leave." She flinched. Then softly, "I thought if I had the house, I'd finally feel like enough." "You were always enough," I replied. "You just didn't believe it." She turned to go, then paused. "Will you ever forgive me?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I won't let your choices steal my peace again." After she left, I returned to the foundation. Placed the forget-me-not seeds in a small pot by the door. Watered them with rainwater from Mom's old barrel. That night, I updated my journal. Not for court, not for proof, but for me. Legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you choose to grow. And mine? It starts here, with clean soil, honest hands, and a mother's love that outlasted even forgetting. The next morning, I picked up the hammer and began to build. 6 months later, Maya's studio opened as a community art space for caregivers and elders. At the ribbon cutting, a woman handed me a letter from Claire. "I'm volunteering at a memory care center. Today, I held a patient's hand the way you held Mom's. Thank you for showing me how. True justice wasn't punishment. It was watching someone learn to love without taking, and knowing you helped them see the difference." The ribbon-cutting ceremony was held on a soft June morning, sunlight filtering through the oak trees that gave our street its name. A small crowd gathered behind the garage. Neighbors, former nurses from Mom's care team, even a few strangers who'd read about Maya's studio online. The sign above the door read, "A space for caregivers to breathe, create, and remember." Inside, the studio glowed with warm light. Shelves held sketch pads, watercolors, memory journals. A cozy corner featured armchairs and a record player spinning Mom's favorite jazz albums. On the wall, a mural of forget-me-nots bloomed in soft blues and greens, the first thing I'd painted after laying the final plank. I stood at the podium, not in a suit, but in paint-splattered jeans and Mom's old gardening apron. "This isn't just a studio," I said, voice steady. It's a promise that caregiving isn't invisible. That love shown in quiet moments, bathing, feeding, holding hands through confusion, is worth honoring. After the speeches, people wandered through the space, touching the textures, flipping through sample journals, sitting in the silence that so many caregivers never get. A woman with tired eyes whispered, "My husband has Alzheimer's. I haven't drawn in 10 years. She picked up a pencil and began to sketch. That's when I saw her. Claire stood near the back, arms crossed, but not defensively, just quietly. She wore simple clothes, no makeup, her hair pulled back like she used to as a girl. In her hand, she held a small potted plant. She waited until the crowd thinned, then approached. "I didn't know if you'd want me here," she said softly. "I didn't know either," I admitted. "But the studio is for everyone who's loved someone through loss. Even if they got it wrong at first." She nodded, eyes glistening. Then she handed me the plant. A young forget-me-not, roots wrapped in burlap. "I'm volunteering at the Maplewood Memory Care Center," she said. 3 days a week. Today, I held Mrs. Delgado's hand while she forgot her daughter's name. I didn't flinch, didn't leave, just stayed. She looked at me, really looked. "I'm trying to learn how to be present, not perfect." Just there, I accepted the plant, placed it beside the original seedling on the windowsill. That's all any of us can do. She didn't stay long, but before she left, she paused at the mural. Traced a flower with her finger. She knew, didn't she, that you'd build something beautiful from the broken pieces. "Yes," I said. "She also knew you'd find your way back if you chose to." Later that evening, as I locked up the studio, I found an envelope tucked under the door. Inside, a letter from Claire and a check for $5,000, marked Seed Fund for Caregiver Scholarships. I'll never undo what I did, but I can choose what I do next. Thank you for showing me that love isn't taken, it's given. See, I deposited the check into the studio's community fund. Over the next months, the space grew into something I never imagined. We hosted art therapy nights for dementia families, writing workshops for grieving spouses, even quiet mornings where caregivers could nap in peace while volunteers watched their loved ones. Local therapists offered pro bono sessions. A grant from a mental health nonprofit covered supplies for a year, and every spring we planted forget-me-nots along the garden path, blue blooms returning just as promised, no matter how deep the winter. One rainy afternoon, I sat at the drafting table helping a young man sketch a portrait of his mother, now in hospice. He asked, "How do you keep going when they forget your name?" I thought of Mom's journal, of the nights she called me Linda or sweetheart, but still reached for my hand. "You don't hold on to who they were," I said gently. "You show up for who they are now, and trust that love lives deeper than memory." As he drew, I opened my own journal, the one I'd kept since day one of caregiving. On the last page, I wrote, "Justice wasn't taking the house back. It was realizing the real home was never bricks and mortar, but the space we hold for each other in the dark. And that no one can ever steal." That night, I walked home through the garden, past the blooming forget-me-nots, past the studio glowing with soft light. Inside, laughter drifted out, caregivers sharing stories, finding solace in being seen. I didn't need a mansion. I didn't need revenge. I had what Mom always wanted for me. A place to create, a purpose to carry, and a legacy built not on ownership, but on love that stays, even when memory fades. And that was enough. True justice wasn't winning the house. It was watching a stranger cry in the studio and whisper, "Someone finally sees me." Because the greatest revenge against betrayal isn't punishment. It's building a sanctuary where no caregiver is ever called ungrateful again.